Sabeer, you represent the company that is going to install and manage the new parking system in the Hibiscus Coast municipality. Now, for starters, tell us, how is it going to work?
Okay, the system we have chosen is an internationally accepted system, which is pavement-mounted parking meters. These terminals are used around the world, which makes it quite robust, quite proven technology. The system works by payment and display or pay by space on the same meter. So we can configure the meters whereby people walk up to the meter, insert your coins, you get a piece of paper which you put onto your dashboard of your car inside the windscreen. And this allows the patrolling officer to see whether the parking ticket is valid or not. The second option on the meters is to do pay by space, whereby every parking bay is numbered. You would walk to a meter, punch in your parking bay, insert the desired amount of coins for the parking time that you want, and you walk away. And the meter then manages your time for you. So the enforcement officer doesn't go to your car, but he has a handheld device that shows him when when that parking space is expiring.
Okay, prices and time scale. How many hours? How many rands do you pay?
The first 20 minutes is 2 rand. Thereafter, 1 rand per 10 minutes. That is the parking rate. There will be monthly parking rates available once we have actually identified the areas that we can move long-term parkers into, and we've done improvements onto those areas. So effectively, the parking hours will be from 8 to 5 p.m. Mondays to Fridays, and 8 to 2 p.m. on a weekend. In certain areas where we are guided by the municipality, for outside of those hours, we will implement parking. So the machines themselves can be configured for those. If you have peak hours or you have congestion in certain areas, we can change those to start charging in those hours.
Okay, simple sum. If you park for 2 hours, you pay 12 rands.
You're paying 12 rands for 2 hours.
Okay, now on what basis or what formula did you base the calculation to find out how much you should charge per hour?
The parking tariff was actually gazetted some years back, and we've used the same parking tariff. So the parking tariff hasn't changed from what was here 5 years ago. The 6 rand parking tariff. I can tell you that this is relatively cheap compared to the rest of South Africa. In Durban, you would pay 8 rand. In Johannesburg, you would pay 10 rand an hour. So relative to the rest of the country, it is cheap, but it's a rate that was specified not by us, but the municipality. So the 6 rand parking hour is by law what should be paid for parking in the Hibiscus Coast.
Okay, the first thought that comes to mind is that this might work in a place like Port Shepstone, you know, the CBD of Port Shepstone with a lot of businesses, etc., where you don't get the holiday traffic so much. But now, how is that going to work at a holiday destination like Margate, where people go and they come on holiday and they have to pay 6 rand an hour? I mean, do you think it will work there?
It does work in holiday destinations, especially in seaside towns. Now, eThekwini has just decided to implement exactly something like this on the beachfront, which was not paid parking previously. And there was a tender issued for that specific purpose. The reason is to allow a number of hours for people to park without actually creating problems that others can't access the beach. So you would typically pay for 3 hours, go to the beach, and then either come back and pay for more or move your car. The idea would be to make parking accessible to others and to reduce the fact that someone would park there for 24 hours a day whilst he's on holiday.
Okay, but now what will happen to that person, these officers that you will have patrolling the area? What if somebody parks there and leaves his car there? How do you...
Generally what would happen is the officers would then come in and look at the vehicle, run all the checks on the number plates on the license disc. These are the officers which are sworn-in peace officers. They would then take appropriate action against that vehicle. In terms of parking, there would be a parking enforcement done only for parking. So we have no other jurisdiction except for parking. So we would only look at the parking system. Okay. If we have to do any work on the enforcement side, it would only be related to parking bylaws, not outside of that ambit.
You might know the previous system did not work at all, for various reasons. You know, we don't need to go into that now. And I think one of them was the involvement of people taking money from the parker. Now, why do you think this system will work better than the previous one?
My opening statement was this is proven technology, which is 100% auditable. Every machine that we put on the ground is GPRS enabled. It sits onto a network live, so every transaction is monitored live. Every cent collected is monitored on a management system. There is nobody to take the money. You're putting the money into a machine which cannot be manhandled in any way to give you parking tickets. And if you don't have that parking voucher on your windscreen, you're going to get a fine. So from previously and from history that I know around South Africa, having tendered for a number of these projects, the hole in the system with the handheld is that people collect the money and put that in the pocket and don't necessarily issue a ticket. The machine will always issue the ticket. If it doesn't, there is a button to be pressed, and we will have parking jockeys who are available to assist if the machines do not work or do not issue a ticket. So the idea would be to put these machines into locations where they are easily accessible and that they can collect the best amount of revenue through parking and making parking easy for others.
Any concessions for old people, or maybe people who, you know, obviously don't have a large income, who have to go to hospitals or medical clinics or maybe churches?
What we have done in the past in projects is allowed for disability, so certain parking bays in areas which are highly used by disabled persons or the elderly would be demarcated, and officers would actually look at this quite clearly and quite closely. We do hand out vouchers to certain individuals who would actually qualify for those discounts. We haven't done that exercise here on the South Coast, but as people approach us and we start to understand the demographics of where these parking spaces should be, they would be. Typically, we would look outside a courthouse where people would go for 2 hours and stay for 5 hours. We would allow some parking outside of that, but strictly monitored. So everybody that goes in would have to then report that they are in the courthouse, sign a register. Otherwise, you're opening up the door for fraud or for losses. So yes, we will look at concessions, and the monthly parking in itself will be a concession. That we would then develop certain parking areas, which would be for longer term parking, which people could pay and park for the day. Shop owners could move their vehicles into, opening up the spaces outside their shops.
Maybe this is an unfair question to ask you, but from your experience with your company, what will your answer be to business people who say that these parking meters, especially on Margate, will chase away business, and that you know, their turnover will suffer as a result of the parking meters?
I don't believe so, and I've been saying this at all the public meetings, that currently people pay car guards informally to collect money. All we're doing is formalizing a system. Now, not 100% of the people pay the car guards, but with enforcement, people will start paying parking. This frees up the parking spaces, and people who shop at other centers would find it now convenient to come into town to shop. So it's a matter of what do you look at as people running away. We don't see people running away. Through the experience in Vryheid, I know people actually say, thank you very much. People now come to shop outside my shop. They would park outside my shop and shop here because there is space. So it's the manner in which you look at it. I believe that it will actually contribute to opening up valuable resources for people that want to shop, not for long-term parkers.
Now, the very important question, the income. Where does that go to? How is it divided? And how do you benefit?
Okay, now what we do is we come into the project. We will develop the entire project at our cost. As a start, 14% of every R1 collected goes towards VAT. We then pay all the costs of operations. We pay all the costs of setting up the system, doing the civil works, putting up the signage, putting in the parking machines themselves. So the total cost to start the project up sits at around 17 to 18 million rand in 7 to 8 months.
70 to 80?
17 to 18, up to 18 million. That's the cost of starting the project up. And then you've got obviously your wages, your salaries, your costs of collecting money and banking the money, the uniforms, going through your 3-year operation period.
Okay.
That total amounts to 60 to 65% of total revenue collected. We then share the revenues with the municipality. We have guaranteed 10 million rand to the municipality through the parking management system, or more, depending on which is the higher amount.
Per month, per annum?
Over the 3-year period. So 10 million rand over 3 years, which would be paid monthly to the municipality from revenues collected. And we specified a percentage, which they would get off the revenues every month until we reach that minimum 10 million, 10.3 million it is, or the high amount of the total revenues collected off the project.
Okay, just a final clarification. You said 65%, the revenue divided. How much of that 65% goes which side?
The municipality gets 10% of the total revenue collected.
Okay.
Okay, so 10% of the total revenue. What is left, we pay all the costs and the operating costs and expenses of that before we get our money back. So we would typically start earning our money in year 3.
You sitting here in front of a camera, and quite a few people on the Hibiscus Coast are watching you. What is your message to them as the guy who's going to hit them for parking now?
The message would be that the parking system is not there to penalize anybody. The parking system is there as an aid to people, to open up valuable property in the city center so people can go in when they want, find convenient parking, and do the business that they want. We're not there to penalize anybody, so if the major question everybody asks is there some grace period? Yes, there is a grace period. The officer would not walk up to the car and issue the fine. He could do this, but he would then look at the car, go away and come back and see if the vehicle is still there. So we are actually not there to penalize anybody. It's there to create a culture of paying for a resource that has to be maintained and to extend that facility throughout the municipality. There will be a lot of implementation of new parking zones, upgrades to the parking zones, improvements to the current existing parking zones, painting of them, and creating a presence in town with parking jockeys and security to actually look after the vehicles in terms of reducing crime. So our purpose is to actually manage a resource, a scarce resource, that gives benefits to the people of the town, not to us. We do make some money, we're in the business of making money, but the investment into this project and the risk is carried by us in terms of everything that is done on this project. The earnings to the municipality, we are guaranteeing the minimum amount to the municipality. So we then say, our job is to go out there and make sure parking works, and when parking is required, it will be available to the public.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.